What's up, dudes? Welcome back to another episode of Rhomas Men's Team. Pretty simple. We are a group of guys helping each other make progress towards each other's goals. If you're new to the channel, awesome and welcome. If you want to help support the channel and join our pro team, head over to rhomasteam.com/pro, where you can contribute to us on a donation basis. We also give you access to exclusive content, mastermind groups, etc., etc. So anyway, hope you enjoy this episode, and we'll see you on the team.
Men's Team, another session here. Phil, what's up, brother? How you doing?
Hey, pretty good. How are you doing?
Good, man. We've got Ray. I think you might need to restart his computer or his connection. Can't hear him, can't see him. All right, dude, you had a great topic. Why don't you introduce the topic and let's riff on it, man?
Yeah, so I was just listening to a podcast a couple of days ago, and I heard this interesting story, and it just had me thinking a lot since then. Because one of my biggest problems is perfectionism. So that's what I tell myself, right? I always tell myself that I can't, especially with making games, I'll have an idea and I'll start making it, and then it's not perfect, and it's not the way it is in my head, right? Because reality is different than your imagination. It's a lot harder to make stuff in real life. And you have to figure stuff out. You have to solve problems, and it's always very imperfect, right? Because and so I always feel like this just isn't working the way I wanted to, and it's not the way I imagined it was, and so I just kind of give up on it because it's not perfect. At least that's what I tell myself. But I just think it's really just obviously an excuse. When you start to deconstruct perfectionism, it's really just an excuse all the time. And so anyways, I heard this really interesting story, and I don't know anything about this, so I'm just repeating what I heard. I don't know if this is an entirely true story or whatever, but I heard this pretty interesting story on a podcast that was someone was saying that John Waters, who I guess was a movie director. I know nothing about John Waters, so I'm just repeating what I heard. But John Waters, I guess, was a gay man and a movie director in the 80s, I think. And what he said was someone said John Waters thought in straight lines, and I really love that visual, because he said what most people do is not at all what he did. So I guess he wanted to make movies, and the way he went about that is he went to a movie theater near his house and just asked them, why don't you guys play movies at midnight? And they were like, I don't know, we don't. And he was like, I'll pay you. I want to play movies at your movie theater. I will pay you whatever, some amount, if you will let me play movies at midnight. And so they're like, all right. And then he filmed these I guess documentaries or something about back in the 80s, being gay was still very countercultural or underground type of thing or whatever. It's very unaccepted thing, I guess, or whatever. So he filmed a bunch of stuff, filmed his own movies, and just paid the movie theater, and then told a bunch of his friends, and they told their friends that I'm playing this movie, and he would just pack movie theaters full of people and show these movies about stuff that wasn't really ever being shown at the time. And I just think I really love the visual of saying he thinks in straight lines, because it's if you think about it, to me, that's to have the audacity to think I want to make movies, and then think, well, they play movies at the movie theater, so I should go there and ask them. That's just a crazy thing to do, because it's no, if you want to make movies, you got to meet someone in Hollywood or whatever, it's you need to that's the way I would think, right? Or I think most people would think, right? When I was a little kid, I wanted to make games since I was a little kid, but I never even had the thought that I could just start right now. I could have started when I was a little kid. And whenever I listen to interviews with other people who make games, it's always seems like that. It seems like there's two kinds of people. There's people who want to make games at a young age and they just start doing it. And then there's most other people are like me. They just for some reason assume for no real reason that like I want to make games, but I never even thought I could. I just thought like, obviously I got to work for Nintendo or something, right? Like I can't do that right now. As a little kid, but like John Waters was like, I want to make movies. They play movies at the movie theaters. So let me go talk to those guys and I'll just pay them rent and they'll play my movie at midnight because they're not playing movies at midnight. Anyways, I don't know. I thought that was a really incredible story. And just such a fascinating like example of like getting stuff done. Like I want to do this. And if I pay someone money, they have a movie theater. If I pay them money, they'll probably let me play the movies. So he did that and it worked out for him. So I don't know. I basically, hopefully that made made some sense. And I was just curious what your guys' it got me thinking a lot about because that's such an extreme opposite of perfectionism. It just got me thinking a lot about the excuses that I use to not get stuff done. And I was just curious, what are some things you guys do in your heads to give yourself an out or to not be thinking in straight lines like John Waters?
Well, I think you're hitting on two, I think, pretty profound topics. The one, what comes up for me when you're talking about thinking in a straight line, I guess, what does Elon Musk call it? Zero-based thinking. I think something like that.
First principles. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you were to just deconstruct, pretend as if you didn't know anything. And if you don't know anything, that's even, you don't have to do the legwork of trying to pretend. I think the internet's a perfect example of that right now. Whether or not you look at the music industry or anything in business, you automatically can, in a lot of industries, leapfrog competitors if you go and say, okay, how can I create this business with the internet now? And you don't know about the old boys club and all the permission-based networking you have to do and all that stuff. So that's what comes up for me about the straight line thinking. I think you're spot on there. Rob, what comes up for you on the topic of procrastination?
It's a tough one because I feel like I know what you're talking about. Like it's like if I don't have at least certain level of expectation met for what I'm going to do to start something, it's significantly harder. It's just easier to put it off or to wait for someone to give you a hand or whatever. But like anything with time, over time, I feel like you can start to observe that just hurts yourself more than it does anything else. I mean, and I go in like ebbs and flows. Personally, sometimes I'm just better at others. I read a book called The 5-Second Rule, which is actually pretty good. It's a little tacky, it's a little mainstream, but it's like if you want to do something, just give yourself 5 seconds, just rip that bandit off and do it because it's just simpler than letting it weigh you down. But it's tough. I mean, I feel like we can all. What's that?
Was it Mel Robbins, the author?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, it's a big name book, but it does have some pretty profound thoughts.
Yeah, Ray, do you struggle with procrastination? And if so, when you're successfully overcome it, what are the tools or tactics you use?
I struggle with procrastination more than everyone on this call combined, and probably everyone, viewing this online, the millions of people. I struggle with procrastination, and there's just my toolbox is full of different tricks. Like Rob said, the 5-second rule. And so you don't have to be married to the 5-second rule for the rest of your life, right, Rob? Like if that works for you, like dandruff medicine or shampoo, if that works for a couple of weeks and then your body gets used to it and you got to switch it up, that's okay. So I'm reading Atomic Habits right now, and the the concept of stimulus, response, and reward, or cue, routine, and reward comes to mind, where like something you can do is, give yourself a reward. for taking a small incremental step out of procrastination. Also something that comes to mind is the accountability and the power of the team, whether that's challenging myself to do something with you guys or the men in my AA group or my personal assistant or even my wife or my daughter or whoever. Saying it out loud has, like if there's going to be a kind of public humiliation, if I don't actually get the thing done, that's something that works for me. Wes, writing often helps, right? Just to get something on the page, whether it's something that's bothering you or a goal, or how does that work for you when you write something down?
Well, I think the process of writing, just in general, used in many different domains, is not only therapeutic, but it's extremely, practical in terms of making progress. I would say that for me, probably the most successful tool that I use is just making as many things as I can as serious as possible, and relating it to poverty and or death or something like that. And because for me, honestly, it's not too much of a leap to get there. If I don't get this done for work, I lose the client, I lose the business, I go into poverty, I die. Right? We're 3 or 4 steps away from that happening. And I know that there's a certain delusion from that, but I also know that it helps me a ton. I honestly think growing up poor really helps, because then you still have that trauma wound that is very easily opened. So I almost think it's a cheat code, if that makes sense. I think right now with a lot of people who are procrastinating, and don't get me wrong, like I procrastinate all the time, but using those almost works almost all of the time. I think other filters, like binary filters, okay, actually I'll give you one right now. So I'm working on a presentation for work. It's the bottleneck to getting to the next phase of growth for our business. And what I'm doing now is saying, okay, I'm taking a page out of Jerry Seinfeld's book, and I'm saying, I am going to sit down for an hour, and it's timed. I set the timer, and I'm going to do this for an hour and purely focus on it. If I distract myself at all, I stop the timer. If I have to pee, I stop the timer. If I have to go and get a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, I stop the timer. And then it's just binary. I'm either doing this or doing nothing during that time. And Ray, I know you and I have talked about that, but it's like, and that's okay. And the victory is not in getting the thing done. The victory is in, I sat down and I either did 0 or I did all of it, like during that time. Phil, does that make sense? What comes up for you?
Yeah, I think what you said a moment ago is something I really, I think it would completely change my life if I were able to more seriously implement like I think the main reason I'm able to procrastinate so well is because for whatever reason over the course of my life, I've gotten very good at blocking out the feeling of what you just said, like this, if I don't get this done, like I'm screwed. Like I'm very, very good at blocking that out and just ignoring, compartmentalizing those feelings. And that's why I'm able to like do nothing, even when I'm in completely like dire situation. And I think if I were to able to just, probably wouldn't even be that hard if I were to practice more often, staying in those mindsets of being like, no, like if I'm feeling extremely nervous about something, that's because it's a problem and I need to fix it. And just training that habit. Frank said something I wanted to say. Frank said, I struggle with building things up in my mind, making small tasks seem larger than they are. Something that I really, really like, something I heard a while ago, I forget who I heard this from, but like making software often takes, making things with software often takes like months of work. Like sometimes things take so long, it's kind of crazy how long it takes you to build even simple things in software sometimes. And someone told me a while ago this advice that I thought was so amazing. I think about this all the time now, and this really just like cut straight through big problems to me. Is he said, any engineering problem, and honestly, I think kind of any problem that can be concretely solved in any way can be solved this way. But he was talking about engineering. But I think this works for anything. Like, if all you need to do, if you're thinking about a problem, that is you just follow this very simple process, which you can repeat endlessly until you've solved the problem. What it is you think, okay, this is the problem I want to solve. Like for me, it'd be like, let's say like I want to make Facebook or whatever. Let's say I want to make Facebook right now. So what you do is you think, all right, do I know exactly every single step right now to make Facebook? No, I don't. I don't know every single step it requires to make Facebook. So then what you can do is you just break Facebook down, or any problem, I want to repair my car or whatever the problem is. Break it down into its major components. So Facebook has, chat, you can talk to people, you can type messages to people or whatever, and you can post photos on Facebook. Okay, so do I know how to make a chat system where I can message other people? No, I don't. So you've broken Facebook down into its components, and then you repeat the process again. So you say, do I know how to make a chat system? No, I don't. But I know how. So you can keep breaking things down, and then it's just a tier system. You keep breaking things down, and eventually you will arrive at a thing that is like, I need to make a rectangle on the screen. Do I know how to do that? No, but I know that YouTube will tell me exactly how to make a rectangle on the screen, right? And that's what's so cool about engineering. But I really think any problem is if you break everything down into its components in this tiered system, and then you build all of the base things and combine them, then you have the result, right? That's just how things work. If you build all of the small pieces and recombine them, you have the result. Maybe you missed a couple, and then you build those, then you have the result. So you can solve any size problem that way. And I always love to think that way, because it just instantly, it's like, yeah, I know how to do that. So do I want to do that or not? And then it just comes back to procrastination. It's just, you want to put in the effort,
Hey dudes, sorry for the interruption here. Just wanted to let you know, if you want to join our pro team, go to romasteam.com/pro. You can help support the channel. You will also get access to exclusive content, masterminds, one-on-one sessions, etc. All right, back to the episode.
Yeah,
Right.
There's a term for that in like whatever the self-help and self-improvement kind of industry is called. Chunking, like breaking things down into chunks, right, to make it more doable. By the way, make Facebook, for some reason, when you said that, I want to make Facebook, it's like, reminding me of going to the bathroom, or number 2, like when you're talking to a baby and it's like potty time. Is it time to make Facebook? I don't know why that came up in my mind. But chunking is what you're talking about, which is another kind of weird. It could also be going to the bathroom, where you break things, like if cleaning the car is like too overwhelming, then you break it down into the exterior, the interior, break it down again, the interior, the cup holders, the floor mats, chunk it down into doable pieces. I think Corey mentioned a couple of weeks ago, like attacking the hardest thing of the day first in order to get the relief from doing that, and everything else seems easy. I would recommend, I don't think it's terrible to do the easiest thing of the day first. For example, someone who procrastinates, again, I procrastinate more than anyone on this call combined. So I created a to-do list for today, and I just attacked the smallest, easiest items on the to-do list first, just to stack my wins, just to get the ball rolling. Corey, hardest thing of the day first, easiest thing of the day first. Can you see the value of both?
Yeah, definitely. And Ray, I like what you said. Sometimes the easiest thing of the day is something that you just need. You need a little momentum, right? And maybe just getting one check off the list might continue that progression throughout the day. But I missed the conversation early, but definitely was resonating with what kind of Phil said. In terms of like project management for like engineering, there's something called like agile methodology, and that's breaking things down into sprints. And so they break every module down into sub modules or tasks, or they start with like initiatives and epics and stories and tasks, and everything can be broken down so that you can get to its finite task in order to complete the end goal, and just breaking that into kind of like a project plan, right? And
I
so
absolutely love that, dude. Because I think guys like me and Phil might get overwhelmed by the monumental task of, let's say, applying for law school or creating a game or putting on an art exhibition or whatever and then we get stuck in the fear and we spin out, right? But Wes, what do you think of that? What would be your advice for someone who struggles to build things over the long term, which is an important, mature adult kind of skill? But someone for example, I was never good at working at a law firm because you had to create cases and over months, but I was a great waiter, which is just sprints, right? And so, Wes, what would be your advice to someone who is great at sprinting, struggles with the marathon, where the reward doesn't come every hour, right?
Well, I think, not to sound like a broken record, but I go back to the original statement, which is, I don't think that's where most people struggle. I think the lead domino is are you spending your units of time on that thing? And I think if I can deconstruct it, it's oh, you just weren't sitting down and doing that thing. It had nothing to do with, and by the way, I'm not disagreeing with Corey. I completely agree with it. I think that's 3 dominoes away from the origin of the problem, right? It's oh, the problem is the problem is not necessarily you didn't set up whether or not it's a project, action, or habit. It's just that you were off playing basketball while you were supposed to be working on the business or working on your job, or you're off getting tea, right? Rather than spending that unit of time doing the thing. And then, the
thing is the inputs, right? The thing is just very simply put, the inputs.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like Rob and Corey and I have talked about before, the amount of people that want to say, oh man, hey, how do I put my wrist in this one weird, exercise at the gym so I can make my pecs really pop? It's you haven't gone to the gym in 6 months, right? We don't really need to be worrying about the angle of the bench, right? To build your upper pecs. You haven't opened the door to the gym. That's the real problem. So it's okay, once you've executed actually sitting your butt in the seat for 100 days, then we can work on the professional level things. I mean, what do you guys think about that, Rob?
I'm sure that. Oh no, go ahead, Rob.
I was gonna say, when you first mentioned you were struggling with procrastination, I felt like I understood a bit more because you were talking about a concept or something you don't know. So it's a whole new project or task. But if time blocking, like we've mentioned, is a great opportunity. If it's something that's a day-to-day type situation or just the first domino, I feel like I know a lot more tricks for that. Make it simple. If you're going to go to the gym, find the gym that's literally 5 minutes away and not 25 minutes away. So it's easier to get there. If you're going to, like what Wes said, you're going to time block, put it literally okay, from 1 to 3 every day, I'll work on this. It helps do some of the mundane things a bit simpler, I feel like just making it easy, making it repeatable, making it simple, a reward, like Ray said, maybe get a protein shake after the gym, or after you time block, you get 30 minutes to check emails or whatever, But some of the more mundane stuff, like Wes is talking about Domino 1, you can do that. There's a lot of techniques, I feel. But doing something new is tough for me.
Let me put this out there if that's okay, because we had this conversation a few sessions ago, and for some reason it hits me like a ton of bricks. It's oh, I could go off into the abyss and study atomic habits and the power of habit. I could tell you 10 books I've read on the topic. But if I just try to
highly effective people, all the habits,
100%. But if I just try to solve it heuristically, it's okay, well, what are the biggest things that move the needle? I think the problem with us men is that we're so safe now, right? If I literally, classic question, if I literally had a gun to your head, I'm sure you'd fucking figure it out, right? If the gun was going to go off with 100% certainty, I guarantee you could figure it out, right? All of us on this call. So I wonder if it's more time spent on really developing our why and from my point of view, like the negative side of why, like if I don't do this, something really, really bad is going to happen to me. And then really believing that, because I think it's those two factors, like what's the negative consequence and or extreme positive consequence, and how much do you actually believe it? Corey, do you resonate with that at all?
I do to a certain extent. It just depends, I think, on the use case. Because like, definitely don't hold a gun to my head if I'm engineering, because it takes me, I'm dead. I'm dead in in an hour. But I think just understanding, I think preparation where you can, right? I think if you can set yourself up for, maybe that first step is a little bit hard, but maybe you can take smaller, less stressful steps in order to prep, to feel like you're prepped for that next step. I mean, a lot of this stuff is like, it's Boolean, it's true or false, right? You're either going to do it or you're not. But I think depending on how complex the problem is, might take a little bit more effort. You might have to reach outside of your close-knit circle to talk to someone you don't know about a problem that maybe they are familiar with. And so I think just putting, understanding your strengths and your weaknesses, and then being able to lean into each one and ask for help when you can, I think is really critical. But I agree with you. I mean, you do have to, there needs to be underlying, there needs to be a why you're doing this, right? Because the minute the ground gets shaky at all, you're gonna quit like that if you don't have a true why that really is driving you. So I agree with you to a certain extent, Wes.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at success in America, I mean, I think we all probably know people who on paper should not be successful, but the story is as old as time. It's like, oh, they were an immigrant that came over here with nothing but a loaf of bread in their pocket, and now they're billionaires. In fact, I would imagine that probably a lot of our ancestors, not too many generations ago, were exactly that story. And I would, if I were to wager, it's because like there just was no other option. It was like, if I don't do this, then I don't feed my family and we all die. Phil or Ray, let me throw the ball over to you. I think you had your hand raised, bro.
Yeah. So anyone watching, first of all, look at the Bond villain, like sitting next to me with like this cat, with like this. Is it a hairless cat, dude? It's like,
oh yeah, dude, she's the best.
Crazy.
She just wants to get fed.
Crazy looking, dude. It's like he's there with the cat, and like I'm Bond with the laser slowly coming towards me, So Wes,
Rob and I have an eternal debate that he just refuses to acknowledge my side, which is like he loves his cat, but his cat does not reciprocate, and he thinks it's the opposite. So anyway, sorry, Ray, go ahead.
This is his avatar. This is his spirit animal. This is like, look, it works, man. He looks at the cat. He's like, now, if I was the nature's most fearsome predator, what would I do, right? So first of all, anyone in the group who can do a Photoshop of Wes with a gun to my head, I think that would be very useful as a screensaver on my phone. And so let's get out of the theoretical and into the practical, Wes. And I want to do Phil next. But for me, if you had a gun to my head and said, like, what you would say, like, make money or like be productive, or it's very simple. Like you said, what I would have to do, I would have to send an email, make a phone call, post to social media, record a teaching video, and repeat. Like those are like, my daughter Thea who's 11, could probably eclipse me, or like, because my job is pretty easy, selling art, right? Send an email, make a phone call, post to social media, and record a teaching video. Now I can get into, do I have to create relationships with the collectors and the galleries and the artists? But no, if you had a gun to my head, I would do those 4 things. Right. Send an email, make a phone call, post to social media, and record a teaching video. Phil, let's take it out of the theoretical and into the practical. Like if Wes had a gun to your head, like what are the 4 steps you need to do to get the job done?
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. I was thinking about that a lot this weekend. Like, I'm in a weird situation right now where AI is becoming. It's unclear how much AI is going to keep advancing. AI has gotten, significantly better in the last 5 years to the point where it's kind of scary. And some people, it's unclear exactly how it's affecting people's jobs right now, but I'm sure it's affecting some people's jobs for sure. even though AI sucks in a lot of ways, it still fails a lot of times at basic stuff like drawing hands and stuff like that. But I'm sure a lot of people that would have hired an artist 5 years ago aren't anymore. So that's really scary for people like me that make stuff like that. That it's unknown in 10 years what jobs will still be jobs and what won't, and that's really, really scary. And also just there's other things like just the TikTokization of the internet is really, really scary, because it's like, 10 years ago, the internet was completely different than it is now. The internet was like old school YouTube, which is way different. Now, YouTube these days is like 1,000 miles per hour, like just adrenaline chaos compared to what it was 10 years ago. So it's very different, and it's that speed of change is really scary. And I was thinking about this a lot, that like, it really feels like possibly existential type of threats coming into the industry from multiple different directions all the time. The industry that I'm, hoping to continue to work in. And like, if I were to really take that seriously, I would have to get a lot more serious than I am right now. And, even things that make me really, really uncomfortable, things like, someone who just released a very successful game a couple weeks ago. That's a very impressive game to me.
Oh,
Someone.
sorry.
Sorry. Someone who just released a very impressive game to me a couple of weeks ago. Like a big game. He's like a very serious game developer. He's not like some random indie dev like me. He was just saying on Twitter, he's saying like, this is obvious, not everyone's saying this, but he's saying like, I think in 5 to 10 years, like the people who are going to be, most of the people who are going to be successful are the people who are incorporating AI into their workflow. And the thing is, like, people in our generation, I think, are going to hate AI like a lot of us do, and resist it and fight against it. And then the next generation, they're not going to care at all. They don't care about the ethics, or they don't care about the artistic integrity of any of it. They're just going to use AI in the ways that they can. And that's the productivity that's going to give them is going to destroy anyone who's not using AI, basically, almost anyone. And if
a grave picture, bro.
Yeah, but hold on, like Phil, perhaps I think this is true of every industry, that in 5 or 10 years, AI will turn us into hive slaves, like that scene from The Matrix, where we're all just like, they're just sucking our like bone marrow out. But in the meantime, Phil, the question I asked is like, is there 1, 2, or 3 things that you can do every day?
No, I know. I was answering the picture. I was answering the picture long term. There's long term and short term.
Yeah.
Like the short term is,
Give me the short term.
Well,
'Cause that's the sprint.
I have a guy that I can work for, that I have worked for, delivering packages and stuff. And I haven't been working for him because my car has fucking mold in it that, makes my lungs burn if I'm in there for more than half an hour. And I could be definitely trying harder to fix that problem. I've tried a little bit. It's absolutely maddening how impossible it is to find and destroy the source of the problem. But I'm not trying nearly as much as I could. I could try way harder at that. I could also just get some shit job at Starbucks or something and do that. I haven't done that because that makes me want to die, and it makes it when I work like that, like I can't do anything, and it's very hard to do anything after work because it's so soul sucking that, like, when I come home, I can't work on games and work on goals and stuff, or even apply for jobs. Like, I just want to fucking lay down and do nothing for the rest of the day. And so I've been avoiding getting some shit job in the meantime while I'm looking for more work. So, that's not, I should not keep, I should be able to work at Starbucks and come home and work on my thing, that I work on my goals after work.
You ever thought about just trying to work at Starbucks and like see the good in it versus the bad?
Yeah, you got to change the perspective, man. I mean, like some of the comments in here, like I think are spot on. Like Alex R, like you can use AI to help propel your tasks using Copilot and like coding, like having assistants help you code. Like I don't think you should look at it in a negative way or Starbucks in a negative way. All that is propelling your end goals, right? You know, they're means to an end. I think you just got to change your perspective.
Look, I mean, the thing about AI, I'm mostly talking about art, like drawing or 3D modeling. Like, I know this is going to sound really pretentious probably to you guys, but to me, I'm really invested in the art of the craft of doing those things, drawing and 3D modeling. Like even 3D modeling, especially to me, is like an art. Like creating a little 3D model in that expresses exactly what you want. There's like this incredible beauty to it. And just using an AI to do it, it's like, why don't I just start mining Bitcoin? Why would I even make games anymore? It's fucking stupid. You know, it's like, why would I? It's like a painter just switching to using an AI art and then selling his canvases from AI art. It's like, I'm not even doing, this has nothing to do with what I was doing before, you know? Like that's my problem with it. I'm not, it's a whole thing. I don't know. It's a whole
Question
thing.
for you, Phil.
Get into, but
if you could do game development for 1 hour a day and that's it, and either you get paid $1 million to do it every time you do an hour, or you have some kind of handcuffs on and you can't do it the other 23. Like, what would you do if you could only do game dev for 1 hour a day?
I don't know. It's hard to answer that question. I don't know because.
But more than now?
Yeah, but I think so.
Wait, what, Rob? What did you say?
Go ahead, Rob.
But it would be more than now, right? Is that what? And then would an hour a day be more than what you're doing now?
Well, I mean, it fluctuates massively for me how productive I am, but recently I've been working a lot on stuff.
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
I mean, going back,
what way to bury the lead, bro?
Yeah.
We'd shoot up half the podcast thinking
this
you're
is a
stuck
massive
in carbonite
problem.
like a Han Solo.
I just think like to your argument, Phil, is like you deal with procrastination and there are things that are preventing you from doing your things, right? If you could use AI in order to get you to do those things more, you know, to help supplement, because to me, there's nothing different. What's the difference between, I guess, looking up an article or watching a video of someone coding something specific or using AI? Like it doesn't matter. Everything is supplemental to like coding. Go ahead.
Imagine you're a movie director and you start using Sora instead. Like that's the difference. It's like you're not doing any movie making anymore.
That's one step.
But
that's the end of the spectrum.
That's what I'm talking.
That's like saying
no. But
like,
look, that's what I'm talking about. Like that's what I'm talking about. The art. Like sure, using code. I don't really need to use AI for coding. I can code myself. Like I'm not talking the AI stuff. Maybe I shouldn't have brought the AI stuff. I'm just talking about long term. I'm saying like it's really terrifying to think that long term AI might completely change the whole industry, where people who aren't using AI are just going to get destroyed by the productivity of people who are using it. And that's a scary thing to think about long term. I'm not talking. That's not like a near. Yeah, I'm not really. I don't need to use AI now. I'm just saying, if in the future people are selling games for $2 and nothing more than $2 because they're making games so efficiently that they can afford to do that, then that means everyone like me is not able to sell games anymore. Make
Wes,
games.
I've got a prompt for you, Wes, if it's all right.
Yeah.
People in the music industry were faced with a similar challenge when Napster came out, and that revenue stream, which is creating music and only sharing it if people were willing to pay, got totally disrupted, right? People still manage, but music still exists and people manage to make a living, do they not?
Yeah, and I think, by the way, I think what Phil is saying is valid. You know, I think the potential crisis in the future is a forever and always narrative. You know, hey, what if my skills become obsolete and so on? I also think, Phil, you know, again, being on your side here is if we're always committed to the basics, learn how to read, write, tell your story, you know, or tell a story. I think the tools might change. Similarly, I'd imagine cavemen would probably look and be like, oh, these fucking guys learning to write with pens, right? What's that about? We used to have to go out and get berries and burn wood to make the ink, to put on the walls of the cave and so on. And to your point, Phil, right? I can understand the craftsmanship and right, like the work put in prior to the work of a caveman saying, well, like that's the art. But then I can also understand a counterpoint of saying, like, hey, well, maybe it's about that it doesn't matter how you tell your story, it's that your story is told. And then I also think, and by the way, Phil, it's not to discount what you're saying, it's just to say what comes up for me. But then I also think it's like, if basketball goes away, I'm sure LeBron James can pivot. I'm sure the NFL will take him, or pickleball will take him.
Pastry chef.
Yes, somebody somewhere will take him because he didn't step off of the court. So that's where I think like there's a leap with a lot of us of like, and I understand it. Our limbic system is a really strong fear-based mechanism. And it just is so counterproductive with work because it could just keep us perpetually in some sort of like relatively negative purgatory. Ray, I'm sorry, I think I may have cut you off, but
no, you didn't cut me off in the slightest. I want to hear from Rob and Corey. Like, I'm always impressed when they open their mouth. Any thoughts, Rob, Corey?
Corey?
Yeah, I mean,
I can give you a prompt, Corey. Like,
yeah, give me a prompt.
Hold on. Before we get to this, just ASB showing up in true classic form with a stripper pole in his background is literally exactly how I'd want it. ASB.
That's a load-bearing stripper pole.
Yeah. I was gonna say, or it's holding up the ceiling. One of the two.
Yeah.
You got a load you can bear right here. Phil, I can empathize with you a little bit. A lot of my job has been, I don't work in tech, but a lot of our clients do. And they automate things like sales development, et cetera. Wes, you would know plenty about that. Ray as well. And yeah, it is shocking. And, if you've read like Who Moved My Cheese, but like, change and chaos, it's a really hard thing to deal with, just like a breakup. I think, Phil, a lot of the things you said are pretty much spot on. The thing I would disagree with is that the change has already happened and skills are very quickly becoming obsolete. Don't think about AI as what it can do now, but what it can do in a year or two. It's so incredibly, like, I'm a project manager and I use it, it's just like, it's already changed everything. And it will continue. It's not going to get better. It'll get worse. I use the analogy of like going to the store to buy a chicken breast that's already been cleaned, deboned, and deskinned. Of course, it's more soulless than, hunting for wild game using a bow and arrow. And if like it's like, if that's not for you, I mean, I believe there's somebody in this group that makes like custom furniture, like by hand or something, like wood crafting or carpentry. So, I mean, like that is one very niche alternative. And like, so basically, like if you're going to compete with, I'm going to use the example of IKEA to fill in for a large corporation that is used AI. You basically have to make something that's extremely high quality, and then you're going to be charging 10 times as much as IKEA to sell a product that's only twice as good at best. And like, maybe there'll be some people that are willing to pay that. And you can find that audience. That's assuming that you are able to do that. Yeah, it's, it's sad and it's scary, but like you are spot on. Your fears are correct.
But ASB, first of all, good to see you, you legend. But the question that comes to mind for me is like, does AI or climate change or trans fats like stop you dead in your tracks and prevent you from making a living, or do you carry on? And like, do you even have to pivot, or like, are there fundamentals, like Wes said, every day that you do no matter what the long-term picture is?
Well, it's not about that. You can do whatever you want, but it's about, does the market's going to change, has changed already so fast. So is there going to be a demand? Can you still feed yourself? I think the apocryphal fable is, what's his name, like John Brown and versus the steam machine. Like Jack Black dude like hammering like railroad spikes versus like, some white nerd in his new steam engine, hammering, and then like he wins. John wins in the end, but he.
Oh no!
Oh no! What happens at the end of the story?
Yeah. Classic.
Damn it,
Wild
John.
Wild West. Just watch the Will Smith movie, Wild Wild West.
Look, I
Hey,
shouldn't
but
have brought up AI because it's a whole like freaking catnip thing that it's just.
Yeah, dude.
I'm not. Yeah,
What we're talking about is procrastination, bro. And like,
it's a whole thing. It's I was procrastinating from answering the question by answering the long term question.
100% were, you son of a bitch. You 100% were. What are 4 things you have to do every day?
Fuck you, Ray.
And like working at Starbucks or like delivering meals, I don't want to hear about it because that's what my wife tells me to do all the time, and it's just like a trigger for me. Okay, but like, what are 4 things like if game dev is your passion? What are 4 things you do every day? In fact, if someone came to you and they said game dev is my passion, what are 4 things I can do every day? Like a young person came to you and sought your advice. What would you tell them? You wouldn't tell them to go work at Starbucks. If a young person came to you and said they want to develop cool games.
Well, I would look. I mean, what I would tell them is get a real job because game dev is not a short-term possibility. It's not a short-term. What are you kidding? You don't like that answer, Ray?
No, I mean, again, it sounds like my wife, but like, okay.
No, but Ray, no, dude, Ray, look, Ray, dude, Ray, look, I'm talking. Look. Everyone knows this, but I'll just repeat the words from a guy who just made $100,000 in less than a week selling a video game, and that's only the money I know about. Maybe it could be double or triple that. And he says, I just read him on Twitter saying what everyone says, which is that making games is an extremely risky business. Right? A comedian that is successful can go out and make $15,000 in a weekend by booking a club for 2 or 3 days. A game dev cannot do that. A video game dev cannot do that. You have to make minimum 6 months to a year investment to make a game, and then you sell it, and you might make the equivalent of $5 per hour for all the time you put in. All right, or you might make $1 million. But it's an extremely risky thing to be doing because most games make less than $5 per hour once they're sold. So
would you rather be doing something else? Or
entrepreneurship is risky.
Absolutely, yeah. And video games is a more specific kind of entrepreneurship, and entrepreneurship is already extremely risky. So, yeah, it's entertainment business too, which is it's multiplying those risks together.
I'd like to give.
So that's why, Ray. That's why I gave you that answer. I'm not trying to make an excuse. Sorry.
I think that's fair, Phil. I'd like to give just a really quick perspective. And for over the next few years, I think the things that AI do, which, by the way, what we did not predict was that it would be so competent at creative tasks. But as this happens, the value of our labor will, all of our labor, whether you're aside from really blue collar stuff, is going to just drop really, really, really severely. But what won't is your personality and your ability to be authentic and human connection. So, you may take pride in things like, dude, I'm fucking so good at spreadsheets, dude. I'm such an amazing, doctor, pathologist that, can diagnose or whatever, things like that. It's it's gonna happen. If you understand AI a little, it's so fucking scary. But you kind of do have to just accept the fate. Our governments are not working to really curb this. This shit is fucking incredible. How efficient it is, and just how much better it is than a human who has things like emotions and biological needs and things like that. So I'm we're all kind of in the same boat. But now, what you're really selling is not products. It's always been solutions. Products are just a means to an end. But now I'd say, even more, you're selling yourself. So your charisma and your ability to connect with other humans, regardless of what industry you're in, is going to be comparatively much more important than ever.
Hey, ASB, just because it seems like you know it, like I think a lot of people could potentially benefit from just getting better at AI. Like, do you know how to point someone in like a direction of like getting more competent or familiar with it?
Yes, absolutely. Just open up ChatGPT and just start playing around and fucking around with it. I mean, that's what any dev does. It's like, oh, let me take a look at this Python library and read it. You know, like, you can enroll in a starter course, a boot camp, or whatever, but you can also at this point just like fuck around and go to forums, things like that.
Well, and we're probably sitting with, sorry, Ray, but Corey is probably the best expert we have on this table right now, because he actually works in software development. So Corey, what's your perspective? Yeah, even better.
I mean, I'm going to have to respectfully agree with some of the panel here. I mean, AI is ML. They're big, giant machine learning models. LLMs, like that's why ChatGPT doesn't know what happened yesterday. Like we're giving this, it's data. We've done machine learning since, for decades. It's nothing new. The only thing that it's doing is it's having specific context to certain aspects through kind of this RAG methodology. And so I think we're giving it too much credit that it's going to take over the world. And I think I respectfully disagree with some of you guys, because I work with data scientists all day long. I build their pipelines. I do all this stuff with LLMs, and it is there's tons of fundamental issues with it. But that being said, like it's a huge opportunity. I think going back to Robert, throwing out things in order to help propel. I don't know when this got into an AI conversation. I'm gonna blame Phil for this, but Udemy. Those of you who are interested, like Udemy has super cheap courses. Coursera. There's a ton of online. YouTube, honestly, is fantastic, but it's thinking that it's going to basically take all the jobs and solve all the world's problems is I think is not actually going to happen. There's tons of potential with it, tons of specific use cases, like that just help propel. You just got to think of it in terms of how does it help propel your life. Like, I'll give you an example. If I'm a lawyer and I'm going, let's say I'm going through a bunch of case law, right? And there's endless amounts of case law, and you could actually, run a large language model on a specific cases, and it can help summarize it for you to help speed up your process as a lawyer, right? There's just things.
Corey, give me an example of salesman or saleswoman. Like, how would AI help someone in sales? Give me a couple of examples.
Oh my God, I got a ton, Ray. I mean, I talk to Robert, I think, daily about this specific thing. If you want to talk contact center, there's contact center AI, where you can have a virtual customer service agent that sounds like you and me, answer questions. And so I'll give you an example of how it's propelling industries, right? So let's say we have an operational team of like 100 agents, and they just get bombarded with calls, right? And a lot of those calls are low-hanging fruit, like, hey, if I work in the finance industry, so hey, what's the status of my loan? Hey, where is it in my where is it in process right now? Am I missing any documents? So instead of having our operational team take all those questions all the time, give them a little bit more bandwidth. We can have it look at our CRM, see where our loan is, and then in a chat, in an agent type natural language speech, be able to tell them where the status of their loan is. And already you've cut your volume of calls down by a multiple, right? So that's one instance. There's virtual agent. Let's say you don't feel comfortable, wanting to get sold by a salesman, right? You want to, like 80% of traffic comes from your mobile device. You want to maybe just chat with a virtual agent about the process, how it works, getting questions and answers on mortgage or finance or healthcare or anything like that. Even looking at your healthcare plan, right? haven't memorized all the benefits of my healthcare plan, but I can go to, my healthcare provider and I could say, okay, hey, what do I get for, if I need surgery tomorrow, what's my deductible, right? There are things that just help supplement. I think it's perspective. Obviously it's, you can't, like, people were thought the same way in the industrial revolution, right? Where, machines were taking over and that's it. That's the end of all things. We just pivot as an organization, we evolve. And I think it's going to be supplemental with AI for a long, 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 long time. And it needs context. And that's the piece that it's all missing, because it's getting trained on, data that's old. And so it can answer relatively easy questions, but when you start to get to more relevant questions, that's where it starts to get hard. It's just machine learning, and we've had machine learning for eons.
Well, I wonder.
What a great conversation, man.
Yeah.
We've had a conversation about the perils of AI, the optimism about AI, and I love ASB's contribution, which is like charisma and personality will never go out of style. And I think that someone like you, Wes, whose Excel, supremacy will soon be rendered obsolete. Your charisma and personality, as long as you're selling something or providing a service to another human being, your charisma and your personality and your storytelling will never go out of style. And so those are skills that we can practice and improve upon, which will keep us relevant in the marketplace. What do you think of all that, Wes?
Yeah, I just want to add one final component here, because I think there's an underlying tone of, hey, there's going to be even more, haves versus have-nots. Like that's one of the underlying tones of like discussions usually like this. I would actually like to put on the table the opposite, right? The amount of companies that will be built with a very small team, if not maybe only one person, that the Googles and the large companies of the world, they already have their Titanic. They cannot be agile. Just kind of by definition. The length of the lever now and the price being democratized and continuously so, I actually think is a major advantage. I'm not saying that doesn't have its disadvantages, but for the disadvantages, I kind of put in the stoicism bucket of like, well, can you control it? Yes or no? If the answer is no, well then, right, like I'm just going to get to work on the stuff that I can control. But I would actually like to put on the table the opposite of, it's actually now the time that a lever has never been longer, and it's getting longer as we speak, and it's becoming less expensive. Final words of wisdom, Phil. I'll throw the ball over to you first, bro.
Pass. Oh, come back to me in a minute, please.
Ray, you made him. I blame this on Ray. Sorry for Ray's rudeness today. Rob, throw it over to you, brother.
You're welcome.
I think that similarly to Phil and potentially a lot of other people being not the most techie, why Phil is more techie. I think AI is intimidating, but I think Corey and Wes are the people you should be asking just because they simply know better. Not to say that you don't know Phil, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's like anything, right? Change is always scary. I'm with you, dude. I'm worried. I don't want to be a replaced salesman because that's the only thing that I know and I'm a dinosaur. But it sounds like the people that are in the know, I think we're going to be okay. We'll find a way.
100%. Ray?
I will not be replaced as a salesman, Rob, because I am not a salesman. I'm an enthusiastic teacher and an enthusiastic coach, right? And
but that comes with price.
Yeah, my price is crazy high, bro.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, dude. And it's like, so the people who consume my services on a one-on-one basis pay crazy high prices. And then the rest of the world gets my newsletter or my videos that I post on the internet. And that teaching is free. And it also attracts them to my very high paid, like custom product. So again,
Ray's OnlyFans audience is only growing. Ray is not worried about that.
Dude, the market for my feet pictures is just unknowable. And partnered with AI, I mean, anyway. So the fundamentals don't change, I think, is my attitude. Interesting conversation about keeping AI on my radar, but the fundamentals don't change. I have to send an email, make a phone call, post something to social, and record a teaching video and repeat.
Hey, Ray, quick check-in. How did it go at the chalet?
Oh, dude, it was great. There was only one ski run that I spent the whole time on my face, just like skiing down the hill. But other than that, knees still intact, quality time with my bros. Got stuck in the snow, and a bunch of cars passed, and then one stopped, slowly reversed. 2 guys got out. We're here to push. So restored my sense of faith in humanity and reminded me of the strength of the brotherhood. I love this group, and that's a human saying that, not an AI bot.
Love it. For your final words of wisdom, brother.
I think AI aside, just perspective, just make sure, it's easy to get into a lull, and it's, you're human beings. So just find the reason why you're doing it, and, make small little attempts in order to try to get over the hump. I think, don't overwhelm yourself. Everybody goes through ebbs and flows of this process, whether it's entrepreneurship or anything like that. Just find ways in order to get crafty, in order to get you over the hump, I think is my last line.
Yeah, I like the idea of, I think there's, you could probably segment the world in 2 ways. Like the people who are not working and then talking about AI, and then the people who are working, right? Saying, like Phil, just like you said, hey, by the way, I also put a lot of work into my game, and I'm concerned. I think that's a dramatically different position, right? Like I just did the 15 hours worth of work, and now in my free time, I can, debate the abstract topic of whether or not I'm going to be, valuable in the future. I think the people who are not doing the work, it's like, before you even say, right, AI or anything related, how about you chop the wood first, and then we can have, right, the philosophical discussion. ASB, final words, my buddy.
Just, we can all remember the MySpace days back then. Developers who knew HTML and CSS and some basic WordPress could make a living. But now we just have other technologies like Squarespace, where it's just now drag and drop and quote unquote democratized. So, really, like, this is a really powerful tool that's very cheap and just going to become even better and better and better at really crazy speed. So just think of it like, a microwave, Google, like Excel spreadsheet, HubSpot, Salesforce, whatever, really it's like, it's on the table there for everybody. So, if you're not going to use it, you're going to be spending a lot of time doing other stuff that, is bandwidth that could be freed up to do the stuff that really matters, that AI is not good at right now. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. Phil, you want to take another stab at Ray or no?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I can't stab him. But no, I don't know. I don't have any wisdom right now, other than I'm gonna try to keep working, I guess. I don't know. I don't really know.
You made a lot of great contributions today, Phil. Thank you for that, brother.
Yeah, well, no, Phil's final comment actually reminds me, I just listened to Jerry Seinfeld's interview with Tim Ferriss, and I thought it was outstanding. And so it's on YouTube for anybody who's interested. And Tim asked at the end of a lot of his interviews, hey, if you could put one phrase on a billboard, what would it be? And Jerry Seinfeld's was very similar. It's like, just work. And I absolutely love that. Final piece here for me is innovation has never not been a thing for humans. But you don't even have to know all of the middle math. If you look in America, the unemployment rate is crazy low. So what that essentially means is all of those workers who got innovated out of something prior have found a way to adapt. And I think that's more of a rallying cry towards human beings. The reason that we are here is because we are generation upon generation of fighters, people who have adapted to the environment. So I think we'll do the same exact thing with AI. All right, dude, I love you guys. Have a great week. I will talk to you on Friday. Later.
See you guys.
Later.